Look at the promotional posters for Isn't It Romantic from 2019, The Haunting of Bly Manor from 2020, and Star Wars A New Hope from 1977. You can easily find them online. Which markers of genre can you detect? Based on the posters and the genre markers you identified, which narrative templates do you expect? Well, let's begin with Star Wars because that's the oldest film. So what do we see on the original poster? We see the Death Star, we see 2 robots, we see the face of a figure we will come to know as Darth Vader, we see spaceships. So obviously we're dealing here with science fiction. However, the poster also already makes quite clear that there will be certain fantasy elements involved. The way Luke and Leia are dressed and the way his sword, the lightsaber, is represented very strongly echoes the covers of fantasy novels at that time. So we know it's a mixture of science fiction and fantasy. And according to these genre markers, we obviously expect a battle between good and evil. We expect action, we expect, because of the way that the couple is represented, a love story that is thrown into the mixture, but everything will be dominated by this battle between good and evil, and that would be the narrative template that dominates the film. Let's move on to The Haunting of Bly Manor. Quite obviously, we're dealing with the horror genre here. We see a little girl in the water. The implication is that she has drowned, and we see the lonely haunted house, which is one of the most important tropes of the horror genre, and everything is represented in dark or rather bleak colors. The colors aren't really saturated, and the strong suggestion by moving towards this house in the background is that there is a terrible secret that needs to be revealed, and that unspeakable horrors await those who undertake the journey to eventually reveal this secret, both those in the fictional world, but of course also the audience in front of the screen. And finally, Isn't It Romantic? Which is obviously a romantic comedy. We have all the bright colors. The film, the caption says, was released on Valentine's Day, and there are the red roses everywhere, which are, of course, a symbol of love and carry these connotations of heterosexual romance. And obviously, this is what the female protagonist is surely waiting for. However, there are also indicators on the poster already that this isn't your typical romantic comedy, or that at least it doesn't want to be your typical romantic comedy, because we don't see a couple on the poster. We only have the female protagonist. She is there alone. And quite obviously, she is not as slim as we would expect the protagonist, the female protagonist of such a romantic comedy to be. So there is also some ironic play with expectations and conventions already going on here, which suggests that, at least initially maybe, there will be a narrative that is slightly bleaker than the standard genre fare, a narrative that will also be self-reflexive, but that at the end, of course, it will all be channeled into this typical boy meets girl plot, and the suggestion will be that they live happily ever after.